Welcome to Turn to Your Doom, a choose your own adventure podcast where we explore the many paths and meet the many ends of choose your own adventure books. Today we are going to be reading Search for the Mountain Gorillas by Jim Wallace. This is number 25 on the choose your own adventure books. And with me is photojournalist Art.
Hi, I'm here. I take pictures, but not like in that creepy way that a lot of fashion photographers seem to be.
Ugh.
But I'm like a Pulitzer winner.
Ooh.
And I also go to college. I don't know.
I go to college. Today we're going to be reading Search for the Mountain Gorillas. This was originally published in 1985 and updated in 2008. So we got that at least. I think I got this one from the ChooseCo website, so you can get it from there. And this looks interesting.
That reminds me, I need to buy the next paycheck. I need to buy the ChooseCo tarot deck.
Yes, I know. I really want to get the ChooseCo board game as well. But yeah, this is 29 endings, 2 trees. One is much shorter than the other. Okay, so let's get this party started. Wham! Your SUV slams through another gaping hole in the red road. Clouds of dust swirl around you. You are a photographer and a writer for the nature magazine African Naturalist. You've done some excellent work on the mountain gorilla, a species that is almost extinct. Now your magazine has sent you on an expedition to a remote wildlife preserve in Uganda. You will be searching for the mountain gorillas that have been sighted there. This is the first time they've been seen in this area of Central Africa, and the reports are sketchy. You've asked Edward Kiwanuka, a zoologist at the University of East Africa and a specialist in mountain gorillas, to join you. The preserve you're heading for is called the Impenetrable Forest. It's a few miles north of Kagezi Gorilla Sanctuary Park. Both places are on the border of the country. The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda are on the slopes of extinct volcanoes. You're driving. You turn to Ed. Where do you think these gorillas in the impenetrable forest come from, Ed? Everyone says the few left live only in the Gorilla Sanctuary Park. My guess is they're fleeing the park. The park rangers haven't been able to keep herdsmen and their cattle out of the park. Uganda is a growing country, you know. The sad thing is, once the lower mountain slopes are farmed or made into pastures for cattle, the gorillas lose what precious little bit of territory. After a while, they'll vanish.
I heard that Uganda is growing in like a non-Euclidean way. It's like the reason why the forest is impenetrable is because we don't understand how to interact with it.
Are you just describing the plot of Annihilation?
I don't know I have not done anything with Annihilation.
It kind of sounds like Annihilation.
I will eventually read the books, but I have not.
Also, I like that it says that we're driving when I don't know how to drive. I don't know if you know how to drive, Art.
I know how to drive, but I fall asleep a lot, and you don't want to do that.
That's a problem when you're operating a heavy vehicle, a large piece of machinery. Yeah, that's the reason
why I don't drive. I decided at one point, just like, you know what? This ain't good. This isn't good, like, at all.
Bad time.
I'm just not going to.
In fact.
Bad vibes. Bad vibes on this.
Right. It's late afternoon. You gun the SUV around a hairpin turn. Roadblock. A jumble of freshly cut trees lie across the road. Ed frowns. Poachers probably made this mess. For years, they've been coming across the border from the Congo to hunt deer illegally in the gorilla sanctuary park. Park officials have started cracking down on them. This roadblock may be their way of getting back. With machetes so weak they seem intended for gardening, it takes you and Ed nearly an hour to hack away enough of the trees to smash the SUV through the roadblock. But now the sun is set. In a few minutes it'll be pitch black. There's no twilight in the tropics. You have to decide what to do. You could camp nearby for the night, or you could go ahead up the dark mountain road into the impenetrable forest and try to find the forestry outpost where Zwena, your gorilla tracker, waits. You told her you'd meet her today, and can't be sure she'll wait around for you tomorrow. If you decide to set up camp, turn to the next page. If you decide to drive into the impenetrable forest, turn to page 7.
Well, I mean, if it's an impenetrable forest, wouldn't you just run into it?
Yeah, right?
Huh. Um, let's make camp. I like making camps.
Okay,
It's fun.
so we decide to set up camp. You decide to set up camp for the night. About half a mile along the dark road, your headlights shine on a large rock. Let's pitch our tent here, behind the rock. We can have a small cooking fire, too, you say. Right, says Ed.
It's a good place to hide, if that happens when you're young, just like go behind a rock.
Yeah.
Wait for it to go down.
Right, says Ed. It's a good spot. No one coming along the road could see us. You hide the SUV and start setting up camp. As Ed is passing you a bowl of the stew he's cooked over the wood fire, deep screaming cuts through the night insect noises. Rah! Mree! It echoes and rises and falls in a distinct pattern, in a distinct rhythm. You and Ed stare into the dark, and then you realize what the sound is. Oh, it's a chainsaw! You laugh in relief. It's back at the roadblock. I'm going there, Ed. Give me 20 minutes. If I'm not back, come for me. After walking half a mile, you come upon a truck parked in the road. The roadblock has been cleared away. In the lights of the truck, you see 2 men sewing a chainsaw. Well, Dylan, says one of the men to the other, we have to use that old abandoned mine road to the park. If those fool poachers keep messing this one up. Let's go. On an impulse, you walk into the light. Hi, you say to the 2 men. Are you from the gorilla sanctuary? I'm on the way to the impenetrable forest to look for mountain gorillas. My partner, Ed Kiwanuka, and I ran into this roadblock earlier. We're camped up the road there. The taller man says, Kiwanuka? He's an old friend of mine, and then introduces himself. I'm Professor Calebson, warden of the Kajezi Gorilla Sanctuary Park. And this is Dylan, one of my park rangers. You invite them back to your camp, and the 3 of you drive there in Calebson's truck. Calebson is delighted to see his old friend, Ed. Come to my place at the park headquarters for the night, he says to you and Ed. We could talk about the gorillas in the morning. I'll show you a special mountain trail that goes to the impenetrable forest. You wonder. Calebson's offer is tempting, and he might help your expedition find the gorillas. But going to the park headquarters will take you further away from the outpost where Zwena, your tracker, is waiting. You need Zwena, and you're already late to meet her. If you stay in your own camp, turn to page 10. If you accept Calebson's offer to stay at the park headquarters, turn to page 15.
I'm getting Stranger Danger vibes. Let's say where we're at.
Okay, so page 10. You decide to stay in your own camp, and Calebson and Dylan leave. At dawn, you and Ed get started. You make a turn at a sign for the impenetrable forest outpost. An hour later, you are there. Zwena runs out of the outpost building at the sight of the SUV. Sorry we're late, Zwena. We had trouble with the roadblock earlier. You greet her. You and Ed climb out of the SUV. Let's go going and see if the gorillas have really migrated to the impenetrable forest. First, let's check the far slope of the mountain up there, Zwena says, pointing. There's a bamboo grove just coming into shoots. They go for that. It's a hard climb, scrambling over the volcanic rock high up the mountain. Zwena never seems to tire as she works around the mountain to the bamboo forest. Suddenly she freezes. They're here. Gorillas, she whispers over her shoulder. Keep down. You and Ed crawl on all fours behind Zwena. She follows an animal trail along the edge of the bamboo. The slender bamboo trees are so close together, and nothing else grows among them. Swenna, look! You touch her shoulder and point to a single strand of thin wire hanging from a bamboo pole by the trail. Piece of a deer snare, she whispers. Deer poachers. Bad luck. You follow Swenna quietly along the trail. No more deer snares appear. Aye! Aye! The screams are violent. They come from up ahead. Filled with dread, the three of you crawl towards the noise. You see a heaving swirl of blackbacks crowding around something in the middle of the trail. Horrifying, powerful screams and grunts come from the center of the group. The gorilla leader forces his way into the cluster. You get glimpses of his silver back and head. He's standing, reaching high to chew something. It's a wire. The end leads to a thick bamboo pole, bent almost double. The other end encircles a gorilla's arm. The elastic force of the pole has yanked the frantic animal's arm up high above its head. The silverback is trying to cut the wire with his teeth. His head moves up and down with the chewing motion. You photograph it with your telephoto equipment. Finally, the wire releases with a snap, and the gorillas scatter. You stand up and turn to Ed. That gorilla was caught. There's movement behind Ed. A strange man steps into the trail. He holds a spear in his right hand and a knife in his left. Is he a poacher coming to check his traps? You can't be sure. How should you greet him? If you say, hello, and hold your hands out to greet, in a greeting, turn to page 56. If you say nothing, turn to page 64.
I mean, obviously, we would need to, say hello. Because that's what you do when you're polite.
Yeah. So turn to page 56. Hello, you greet the man, holding your hands out, palms open. What are you hunting? Deer, he answers. We were coming to check our snares, and we heard those screams. The bamboo trees rustle and click behind the man. A second poacher forces his way through the close-grown bamboo trees. Spear first. He nods to you and joins his companion. You look at them. Your deer snare just caught and wounded a gorilla. Hunting is illegal in this forest. Are any hunters catching gorillas? They stare silently at the ground. Listen, you say. We're trying to help the gorillas keep a small part of their forest. Tell us what you know and we won't bother you. The first poacher looks at you. Yesterday, 2 hunters showed us a baby gorilla they caught somewhere. Let's try to find those poachers, you blurt out to Ed and Swenna. Maybe we can reach that baby gorilla and find out what happened to its family group. They nod, and you study the deer poachers. Can you trust them to take you to the gorilla poacher? Or should you ask them for directions and try to find the gorilla poachers on your own? If you offer to pay these deer poachers to guide you to the gorilla poachers, turn to page 65. If you just ask them for directions to the gorilla poachers, turn to page 124.
These are both bad ideas. I guess that's directions.
Okay, page 124. There we go. Where are these gorilla hunters? You ask the first poacher. We saw their camp at the edge of a clearing down there, he says and points to a spot in the bamboo back down the path. There's a trail nearby. Then the 2 deer poachers vanish into the thick vegetation at the side of the trail. I think he means that saddle area between the mountain and the next, Ed says. But Swenna is worried. Those deer poachers are not from my tribe. I do not trust them, she tells you and Ed. You take over and lead the way out of the bamboo forest. In the saddle area, the vegetation is thick. Ed and Swenna help clear a path with their machetes. When you find the trail the poachers mention, buffalo and elephant use this trail to cross here. Look at their marks, says Ed. Be careful. Poachers sometimes set up those trip log traps for buffalo along here, Swenna warns. You're nervous, and it makes you super careful. Your eyes dart back and forth across the path, looking for the tiny pegs that hold the nearly invisible tripwire. An animal only has to brush the tripwire with a log weighted hundreds of pounds with a long knife fixed in it. It will come smashing down. The trail narrows. Lots of vegetation hangs over it. The light is dim. You slow down and walk bent over, as to not miss any wire. Wait, that looks like one. Your heart beats faster with dread and excitement. You motion to the others to wait. You kneel and examine the wire and the little pegs that hold it in place. But as you push away the brush above it, you hit a second tripwire. You only have time to pull back a bit as the giant log above you is silently released and crashes down. Crack! The impact flings you onto the trail, right on top of another tripwire. A second log crashes down, and the blade stuck in it drives into your back. The end.
Oh fuck! You got Rube Goldberg killed.
It's true.
Like, oh fuck, that sucks.
All right. So, if we decide to do the other one, where we pay them, you tell the poachers you'll pay them to guide you to the men. The first poacher nods to you. We'll do this if you pay us now. You make the deal. The two men set a fast pace down the saddle area between the mountain you were on and the next one. The forest there has a lot of hypericium and hagea trees. Guerrilla groups like to feed off the bark and nuts. Some leaves of these trees, as well as the ferns and orchids that grow on them. Your guide heads west towards the Uganda and Democratic Republic of the Congo border. You know it's a great country if they have to put Democratic Republic in the name. Democratic Republic of the Congo border. Late in the afternoon, one of them points to a grassy clearing below the bluff he's standing on. See the smoke? That's their camp, he says. You all creep closer to the camp. Two men crouch in front of a smoky fire. One man is skinning a small animal. His companion is using a machete to whittle a wooden spit for cooking the meat. As you watch, the first man takes the spit and jams the carcass into it. We'll wait till after dark, then we'll surprise them. We're 5 against 2, you say. In the dark, the poacher's campfire sends sparks into their shelter, the hollow trunk of a tree. Now, you shout, and the 5 of you rush the poacher's camp. Before they have a chance to move, you and Ed have grabbed their spears and machetes. Your hunter guides tie them up. Both men are scarcely larger than children. They wear clothing made of skins and feathers. They tremble and moan as you and Ed question them about the baby gorilla. They're too frightened to talk. You photograph everything in the camp. The smoked deer meat the men have, their snares and spears, the skins they have hung on the poles to dry. Next morning, you all search for some sign of the captured baby gorilla. No luck. You look at the poachers who've caught them and feel sorry for them. Ed, look at them, you say. They're so frightened. We'd better get them to the gorilla sanctuary park. Authorities while they have the strength to walk, Ed says. I'm going to stay here and search for the baby, you say. Ed and Swenna leave with the other men. Suddenly it's so quiet. The ashes of the dead fire blow in a gentle breeze. Yee! Yee! A thin wailing sound comes from the forest. Your heart pounds. It could be the gorilla baby. It has to be the baby gorilla. Little sobs mixed with the wailing. You walk quietly towards the sound, stopping every few steps to listen and look. Then you see it. Hanging from a tree branch is a cage made of split bamboo and vines. Inside is a female baby gorilla. Shrinks away from the sight of you. Last night, all the noise probably frightened her so much she didn't dare cry out loud. The baby gorilla is in a pitiful shape. She looks half-starved, and she's sick. She cowers on the bottom of her cage. Her wrists have nasty cuts, perhaps from her capture. You decide to carry the baby gorilla to the outpost, and try to nurse her back to health. You name her Surprise. Every day you feed her a fresh assortment of vines, berries, and leaves. Thanks to your attention and love, Surprise lives. Soon she accepts you and clings onto you as if you were her mother. Then Ed returns. The gorilla poachers are in jail, he says as he greets you. The two who helped us got off with a warning. Surprise jumps out from behind the chair and clings to you. She's scared of Ed. Hey, look, he found the baby, Ed exclaims. You tell Ed the story and you show him the article about Surprise that you're writing for African Naturalist. That's great, he says. I should get some support for protecting the gorillas in this forest from poachers. What about Surprise herself? Let's take her back to the wild. She's ready to join the real gorilla family now. How about starting to find one for her tomorrow morning, you say. Ed looks at Surprise. She's asleep in a nest she's made from some of your clothes and papers. He chuckles. If she only knew what a big adventure she's going to have tomorrow, he says. The end. You did it. You found the baby.
When they said a sick gorilla, was it like doing like kickflips and ollies, or?
That's what I was like. Yeah, kickflips, ollies, grinding on every a handrail she could see.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing it could be, right? Like, just look at that sick as fuck gorilla over there.
All right, so we reached the end of that one, but if we go back to where we first ran into the two poachers, and we had the option of being like, "Hello, hail and well met, my dudes," or we could just say nothing. We chose to say "hail and well met, dudes," and that actually went well. But if we decide to say nothing,
yeah, let's see what happens when we say nothing and potentially surprise. The people with guns that are willing to kill animals illegally in a place that would get them arrested. Okay, let's do that one. That sounds good.
You stare at the strange man, who is standing still and looking stunned. Then you raise your camera. The man spins around and runs down the path. He must be a poacher. You fucking think? Something makes you turn and look up the path. The hair on the back of your neck rises. Another man pokes his way through the bamboo into the narrow path, 6 feet in front of you. He's got a spear and a machete, too. He's talking out loud as though he expected someone to be on the path, but not you. You both stand motionless. You were close enough to see tiny flecks of rust on his dangerous-looking spearhead. Hi-oh! The voice of the other poacher comes from the distance, calling his lost companion. In an instant, the man charges, thrusts his spear at you, and flashes past you and Ed towards his friend. Suzanne quickly picks up some special leaves and packs them around your wound. Then she makes a pillow for your head, wadded up leaves tied around their own vines. You shut your eyes. You feel your camera at your side. Lucky you, says Ed. That spear blade must have missed your kidney. You'll be all right. We'll just have to take you to the hospital. Sorry to cut the expedition short. The end.
Okay. Well, we got stabbed.
Ow! Okay.
Ew.
I think this next, if we go back one more, it'll split into another tree. But I think we're on the short side.
Okay. Well, let's.
So, this is back when if we decided to stay at our own camp, or if we wanted to go with Calebson. And we decided to stay at our own camp, because you had stranger danger about Calebson.
Turns out we should have had stranger danger about ourselves.
Damn.
Sad. I know. It's the people who you never expect. Me. It's myself.
It's me. I'm stupid. Okay. Actually, it looks like we might be on the long side. I can't really tell, honestly. So, if we turn to page 15... You and Ed put out the fire and stow the gear and climb into your SUV to start for park headquarters. The taillights of Calebson's truck guides you through the thick darkness. No village lights shine up at you, and there are no roadside street lamps to outline the steep, winding track. He turns onto a narrow trail. You follow. This road is even more treacherous, and you concentrate on making the hairpin turns. Finally, your headlights sweep past the park gates, and Calebson stops by a large house situated under some flowering trees. Early the next morning, you and Ed have breakfast on the veranda with Calebson and Dylan. Pointing, Calebson says, "There, to the north of that pond, is the impenetrable forest you're headed for. We've heard reports about a guerrilla group up there, too. What's your theory on why the guerrillas have been showing up in that forest?" you ask. "They're fleeing the villagers who graze their cattle in the park, as well as the poachers who hunt here," Calebson answers. "I don't have the manpower or the support of the local people to keep the park clear of them either." He points north again. "There is a special trail from here to the impenetrable forest, which goes along the mountain slope. Dylan and I could guide you. I'm curious about these reports myself. We could leave this morning." You wonder for a moment what to do. You need an expert guerrilla tracker like Suzanne, and with any luck she's waiting for you. But there's a chance to save precious time and start looking for the guerrillas right away. If you decide to include Calebson and Dylan and start from here, turn to page 21. If you decide to say no to Calebson and stick to your plan to get Swenna now, turn to page 23.
I mean, let's get Swenna, because we want someone who can help us track him down.
Yeah. Alright, so if we decide to go to Swenna... Thanks for the invitation, Calebson, you say, but we're late to pick up Swenna at the forestry outpost. We have to leave now or else we're going to be late. Thanks for the bed last night. We'll check back with you soon as we can. See you later. 2 hours later, you and Ed pull up to the orderly compound. On the right-hand side of the road, a sign on the lawn says, Uganda Forestry Outpost, Impenetrable Forest. A young woman runs towards you, extremely excited. It's Swenna, always overjoyed when you were visiting her part of the world. The three of you greet one another, and you explain about the roadblocks that delayed you and Ed. Any signs of guerrillas, Swenna? You ask. I took a hike towards the Congo border west of here. She points to a mountain range behind the outpost. I saw some guerrilla signs. I found night nests just a day old in the forest on the edge of that volcano on the border. They might have headed north from here. I would need to see that area again to be certain. Let's explore that area first, you answer. Swenna kicks at the dirt. I'm afraid to go to that place. I met some hunters who were poaching deer and wild bush pigs. They told me they'd just seen steam coming from the ground. Swenna, for years, hot springs and geysers have bubbled up near that volcano, replies Ed. It's nothing new. If you say, look, Swenna, let's go back to where you found those nests. Turn to page 27. If you say, okay, Swenna, let's head north of the volcano. Turn to page 33.
Okay, get this.
Uh-huh.
She found guerrilla signs, which means not only are they capable of conveying things through at least symbolism, but they also want to be found, because why else would the guerrillas put up signs where they're at?
I don't think that's what that means, but okay.
Okay, so it follows logically. So if they put that right next to the night nests, obviously they want to come back. So let's go.
Okay, so we'll do the first one.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the sides. They're gonna be like me here,
gorillas here, and there's an arrow.
Yeah.
Swenna looks up at you. All right, we'll look at the nests, but let's be careful when we get near the volcano. Swenna leads the way up the steep trail away from the forestry outpost. It's hard to keep up with her. After hours of climbing, she stops to show you the view to the west. She points and says, Democratic Republic of the Congo is about half a mile that way. It's too high here for villagers. No one lives here. Only hunters come here. How much farther to where you saw the gorilla's nests? You ask wearily. Not far. We have to climb a little more to get over this ridge and past the volcano. About an hour more. At the ridge's high point, the gray pumice-like stone is fine and slippery underfoot. You stop for a snack of bread and dried meat. At first you think your weight has somehow shifted, the boulder you're sitting on. It's moving and trembling. Swenna and Ed jump off and run along the trail. You stay on the boulder. Hurry, let's go, Ed calls to you. It's too late. Steam spurts out of the ground in a line that cuts along right across your path to Ed and Swenna. Along the line, vegetation and trees start moving and swaying, but there's no breeze. The ground underfoot is shaking, and you feel sick from the motion. Things look out of focus, too, because everything is vibrating. Geysers steam and boil out of new places in the crack. The crack is separating you from the others, is a foot wide. And as you watch, trees and shrubs sink into the steaming trench. It's growing wider. Maybe you can jump around it. But it's getting longer, too. Hurry, jump! You can make it! Ed shouts and holds his hand. But the crack is even wider now. If you try to run around the crack, turn to page 35. If you try to jump to them, turn to page 42.
I have the confidence of, I would say, 12-year-old boy right now. I'm just like, I can make that gap. You're
gonna go over, not around.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna jump, and then I'm gonna realize midair that I couldn't.
Sorry. Okay, so we turn to page 42, and this is what it says. You take a running start, jump, and just miss Ed and Swenna's outreached hands. As you jump for them, the ground beneath them crumbles into the deep steam-filled crevasse. The end.
See? I predicted it. That's how it goes every time. If you could jump like 4 feet, like with a running jump, then why aren't you doing like Olympian shit?
That's if we tried to jump over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time we're gonna try and go around it. It's too risky to jump, Ed, you yell. I'll try and get around it. Stay with me. The ground shakes and you feel dizzy. With each tremor, the crack widens, and steam rushes up from it. It widens into a crevasse in places, and clumps of earth large enough to hold trees tip slowly, silently into the steamy trench. You find a place to join the others several hundred yards downhill. You're lucky. Swenna, you were right about the volcano. Let's get out of here. I'm sure Swenna's like, yeah, you should have listened to me. At a safe distance from the volcano, Swenna stops under a Hegea tree. Its trunk is huge and has deep recess. You lie down in the shelter of the hollow to rest. It's mid-afternoon. This is a good place to camp. Not far from the gorilla nest, Swenna spotted. Without meaning to, you doze off, and when you wake up, Swenna and Ed are napping near you. You get up to stretch your legs. A short walk along the trail, there's a grassy meadow, clear of all trees and bushes. It's bowl-shaped, and about the size of a basketball court. Curious, you walk to its edge. Something is peculiar about it. The grass looks unusually green and rich, and a delicate foggy haze hangs over the meadow. The haze hangs thickest in the center, which is a low point. It's beautiful and mysteriously peaceful. You are caught in its spell. You notice the soft outlines of animal forms in the thick fog. A wild bush pig, a couple of deer. For a second you think they're asleep. They're dead. You spy more animal corpses. Some seem to be half melted into the ground, with fur hanging from their naked white rib bones. What's happened? Maybe you should wake up Ed and Swenna. Is this a mysterious burial ground? If you get Ed and Swenna before you explore this meadow, turn to page 43. If you explore the meadow right now, turn to page 92.
Let's do the first one.
Go get our friends first. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah, because I feel like it's like literal white people nonsense if you go in without backup.
Oh boy. So page 43. Hey Ed, Swenna, wake up! Come over here! You call to from the meadow's edge. Ed shows up, rubbing his eyes. What do you want? Look at this place. It's so quiet. The grass is so green. And look at all these dead animals, Ed, you say and grab his arm. That's Masuko Meadow, says Ed, completely awake now. See that haze in the middle? It's a carbon dioxide gas. It's deadly in that concentration. It comes from the volcanic disturbances underground. Look at that grass. It makes plants grow beautifully. Good thing I didn't go out there, you say. It might have killed me, too. Let's get out of here and camp somewhere else. The next day, Swenna picks up the gorilla's trail, near where she spotted their night nest 2 days before. It's an area of hyperseum trees, and the gorillas shape their soft, pliable branches to build their sleeping nests. There are 7 of the nests, shaped like crude bathtubs. The trail goes along the edge of a shallow, flat-bottomed ravine. Swenna points into the ravine. Another Masuko meadow, she says. What if the gorillas wandered into it, you say? Let's have a look. The meadow glows like an emerald in the dark forest. A soft haze of gray gas hangs over it. Holding your breath, you approach its new Masuko meadow. No, not the gorillas! You're the first one there, and first one to see black lumps lying peacefully near the center of the deadly clearing. No!
No!
I count 9, says Ed sadly. After a moment, must be the whole group. There's the leader, the silverback there. Those must be the mothers, the ones holding the babies. You take a photograph after photograph with your digital camera in desperation. You switch to the black and white setting, adjusting to the grimness of the moment. At least they died together and peacefully. The images in the viewfinder look so relaxed. The gorillas appear to be asleep in the mist. The end.
Okay, cool. Well, what if they're dead in the nest? Sleeping and, dying while laying down doesn't look that different.
Yeah. Alright. So, I think we're at the end of this tree. So, if we decide to instead just skedaddle into the meadow, you walk into the center of the meadow to see the dead animals. Maybe poachers did it. As you peer through the haze, you see the bodies of predators. a hyena, a leopard, near the half-rotted body of a deer, 2 vultures lie crumpled. Maybe the strange mist is poisonous. You sniff. There's no smell. You feel great. You're alert, and something about this mysterious meadow gives you a good feeling. The grass is so green. The dead animals don't bother you. You walk into the center to examine a tiny animal. You crouch down to get a better look. Wow, you feel good. You laugh out loud and decide to show this place to Ed and Zwenna. You don't know it, but you found a Mitsuko meadow. The mist is carbon dioxide gas. It's seeping out of the ground from the volcano nearby. First it makes you happy, then drowsy. If you fall asleep in a Mitsuko meadow, you never wake up. You sit down for a moment to enjoy all these...
Maybe you don't. I'm built different.
I still love the...
I just wouldn't.
I still love the origin of the... It's the post about, like, my grandmother died in Chernobyl, like, R.I.P. your grandma, but I'm built different. You sit down for a moment and enjoy all these wonderful feelings. You forget what you wanted to do. That's all right. It doesn't matter anymore. You lie down. In the distance, you see the forms of Zwenna and Ed. Zwenna is pointing at the meadow and shouting. You want to wave to them to alert them to your presence, but your hand feels very heavy. The end. You can't believe you got high and died.
I mean, if I'm gonna die in the middle
might as well do it feeling just fucking jazzed.
Yeah.
Right. The next one back is trying to jump over the crack, which we failed, and then we went around it. The other option is, so when we first met Zwenna, we could either go straight to the volcano or we could go towards the nest. We decided to go towards the nest, because Zwenna is afraid of the volcano. So, instead, if we're like, fuck you, Zwenna, your fears don't matter to us, and you go towards the volcano.
Fuck you, Zwenna, even though you're literally here to help us.
Even though, like, you're the most skilled person in this group. If we go north and then climb east along that ridge, you can see, I think we will find the gorillas up there, Zwenna says. Then let's start, you answer. From the forestry outpost, the trail winds higher to the north. As you turn east and climb the ridge that runs between the 2 peaks, the trees become short and scattered. The air gets cold and misty. Zwenna points out a giant ground cell. Flowering plants over 10 feet tall that look as if they belong in the desert. They disappear into the fog that's rolling in. Zwenna stops. Some gorillas ahead. I've never seen them so high in the mountains. This isn't where I thought we'd find them at all. You look ahead and see nothing. Then, a break in the fog, and you see a line of black backs moving slowly along the trail, going up the ridge to the mountain. Zwenna continues along the trail after she thinks the last gorilla has crossed. As you reach the crossing spot, another gorilla appears in the path right in front of you. You're so close, you notice the dew clinging to the animal's fur. It's the leader of the group, a silverback male bringing up the rear of his group. The dew makes him look magnificent, silver all over. Without a sound, the gorilla stares at you in the eye. He turns and moves up the mountain. For a few moments, you gaze after the gorillas in a trance. We'll have a hard time tracking them in this fog, Ed says, breaking your trance. What are they doing heading to the top of the volcano, you ask. Let's try to find them. They're gonna throw a virgin in.
Yeah, they're waiting for you to follow so
they can throw
you can be thrown in. Yeah.
The search is fruitless. The gorillas have disappeared, and you call the expedition off several days later.
And of course there's no fruit.
Of course.
The gorillas ate it.
Yeah! I don't understand why they went that far from their usual territory. What were they after? Nothing to eat up there, Ed says, and peers into the clouds that swirl around the rim of the old volcano's crater. Oh, says Zwenna mysteriously, I believe they have their reasons. They are much smarter than we are, you know. They know something we don't. You follow Zwenna's gaze towards the volcano. It's not difficult to believe she may be correct. The end.
You're not going to tell us? What?
Okay. Oh, hi, Meester.
Are we gonna get a route where it turns out the gorillas are like ancient aliens or something?
Oh fuck, I hope not. Oh, thank you for laying on all my bookmarks there, buddy. The other side of the book is pretty long, but I think it's just gorillas. I don't think they're actually alien. At least I hope not. Oh. All right. So this is our last choice on this tree, or the last path we haven't explored, and that is if we decided to go straight to Suzanne or if we decided to take Calebson and Dylan with us. So turn to page 21. Oh no, there's more here.
Okay.
Glad to have you two with us. You shake hands with Calebson and Dylan. I'll send someone for your tracker, Suzanne. She should be able to track us from here if she's any good, says Calebson. The four of you start up the forest trail. For hours, the trail climbs up ridges and then sharply descends into ravines. It's tough going. On the edge of a clearing, Calebson motions you over. He points at a round pile of crumpled leaves and branches in the center of a large shrub. The pile looks as if it's been woven. Gorilla nest, you whisper. Yes, they make them every night to sleep in, he says. Look, another. You all creep closer to the second nest. Suddenly, Calebson freezes. In another clearing ahead, a large dark head and shoulders poke above a bush. A gorilla! And moves into the open. Its upper shoulders, neck, and back are silver. It's a silverback, and silverbacks are usually the leaders of the gorilla group they travel in. Several other adults move into sight, some with youngsters pulling at them and climbing on them. Ed counts 9. 6 adults, 3 babies. It's a complete group. The 2 babies climb into the midst of a large shrub and lounge there. One by one, they pick its purple blossoms and eat them, smacking their lips as if the food were candy. Rah! The silverback gives a shattering, loud roar. He stares at the far side of the clearing. There's a third baby, and Dylan's right next to it. What could he be doing? The youngster spots Dylan, shrieks, and runs back to its mother, making little grunts. Dylan retreats and rejoins the group. I wanted to get a better look, he whispers. You've been taking pictures, as Dylan talks to you. The silverback spots your group and fixes Dylan with a stare. With a fierce jerk, he uproots a small bush and tosses it up in the air. He charges towards you twice, stopping each time after a few feet. Whirling around, he grunts to the other gorillas. They move past him. He follows, and they vanish into the forest. What was Dylan up to, you wonder? No time to figure it out now. Should you follow the gorillas or let them get over the scare? If you follow the gorillas right now, turn to page 26. If you leave the gorillas alone to let them get over their scare, turn to page 38.
Let's let them get over their scare.
Okay, so page 38. Best we leave them alone for a day, you say. They've had a bad scare, and gorillas like their privacy, you know. We make contact with them. They'll pick up their trail from here tomorrow. Well, Calebson says, too bad Dylan and I should get back to the park then. We'll come with you. Maybe Suzanne will show up if the messenger found her, you say. Back at the park headquarters late that afternoon, Suzanne does arrive. You greet her and apologize for all the confusion. But we've had some beginner's luck, you explain. We spotted a group today. We spooked them, though. Tomorrow we'll try to make contact again. You, Ed, and Suzanne start out early the next morning. After tracking the gorillas into an area that's quite level, Suzanne stops and points. Here's where they felt safe and slowed down. See all those separate trails they've made? That's where they've been exploring for things to eat. How far ahead are they now? Ed asks. They're close, Suzanne answers. From now on, crouching low and keep quiet. It won't be long. Crouching down, you follow Suzanne through a thick tunnel of vegetation. The going is tough. The gorilla trail is right through a bunch of nettles that sting your face, no matter how careful you are. Ah! Ah! Shrieks that sound like those of a human baby come ahead on the left. Suzanne, you whisper. What's that? She motions for you to keep quiet and follow. Now that you see what the screaming was about, a baby gorilla is hanging by one of its feet from a fork in a spindly vernonia tree. It's stuck, and its mother is holding it while she tries to pull its foot loose. She succeeds, and the baby jumps free of her. You get your camera and notepad out and creep ahead to get a view. The baby is trying to stand on the silverback's stomach. The leader is lying on his back, propped up against the tree. You have just enough time to take some pictures before the mother runs over and scoops the baby up. It's early afternoon, time for the group to rest after midday feeding. One of the mothers is building a nest by weaving together thin, pliable branches from a hyperchium tree. You quietly move uphill to get a better photograph of her. A sound makes you look up. Staring back down at you is a large all-back gorilla. It's probably a male, to judge by its size. Where did it come from? He's not a part of the group below. He's a stranger. With soft grunts, he moves downhill to you. What should you do? Running on this hill might be dangerous. Maybe you should remain motionless, but you can't. But you can't guess what this gorilla will do.
I mean, it's...
Okay, so maybe you should remain motionless, but you can't guess what the gorilla will do. You could climb a tree, but can you outclimb a gorilla? So you have 3 options.
Okay, so if you climb a tree, the gorilla's just gonna climb a tree.
You can run, stay still, or climb a tree. Those are your 3 options.
Okay. What I vote is we run, but before we run, we say, "Ha, your dick only gets like 2 inches big," and then you run away.
Yeah, dunk on him.
Why don't you run on those tiny little legs, you little freaks? You little long-armed
If we
freaks.
decide to make fun of the gorilla's dick and run.
Yeah.
Run for it.
Yeah.
The huge black gorilla keeps on coming. He's so close you can see the shiny black hair on his chest glistening in the sun. You whirl around. There's a trail off to the right, and you bolt for it. Away from the gorilla and your companions. You dash downhill along an indistinct track. A branch whips along your face. Your eyes fill with tears and you can't see. You take a few more steps and you're falling. Crack! Pain shoots up your left leg. You're in a long rectangular pit. It looks man-made. Sawdust covers the bottom. Your leg hurts too much to move. There's nothing to do except remain still and wait for your companions. Minutes later, Zwenna and Ed lean over the edge. They lift you to safety and put your leg in a makeshift splint. You fell into a saw pit, a deep trench used to saw logs into planks. You have to recuperate, and you can't stay in the wild. Your expedition is over. The end.
Okay, so don't make fun of their dicks and run away. That's what I'm getting.
So if we stand still... Oh, Meester's snoring. You're terribly frightened, but you stay right where you are. Perhaps it's just the look in the gorilla's large brown eyes. He could just be curious. You wait. Slowly and deliberately, the gorilla walks towards you. You avoid staring into his eyes, and he avoids staring into yours. He stops so close you can almost touch him. His eyes seem kind. He does look curious. After a few moments, he slowly moves his head from side to side. By instinct, you do the same. He stands up and reaches out to touch your face. You stay relaxed. He looks at you again and makes a soft grunting sound. Then he returns and moves uphill, away from you and the gorillas below. He disappears into the undergrowth. You feel faint and weak in the knees. You're excited as you creep back to Ed and Zwenna. What an encounter.
Oh, I know why. This is that one really handsome gorilla, like in Japan.
Oh,
In Japan?
I remember that.
Yeah.
That had a bunch of fangirls. What an encounter. You find it inspirational enough that you begin to work on a part documentary, part dramatic film about the sensitivity of these creatures. However, nothing you establish on film ever truly recreates that moment in the forest. The end.
You know what might? True love's kiss.
Yes.
Because you fell in love that day with that one
With
gorilla.
a gorilla. Alright, if we decide to climb up the tree, near you stands a tree that looks easy to climb. You decide to play it safe and scramble upwards. Minutes later, you are at least 20 feet off the ground. Downhill, you can see all 9 gorillas in the Silverbacks group taking their midday rest. Neither of your companions have spotted you. With quick steps, the strange gorilla moves to your tree, peers up at you with large brown eyes, and to your horror, begins to climb. He's big and heavy, and it's a hard time, but in a few minutes, he's right below you. You're afraid to yell down to Zwenna and Ed. Maybe it'll make the climbing gorilla attack. You're better off being quiet. Your breath slows as his large shoulders push aside the branch below your feet, and you hear him breathing. Moments pass, but neither of you moves. Then, what seems to be impulsivity, he reaches over and pulls on your bootlaces. You shriek. The cry alerts your companions below and sends the gorilla sliding down the tree trunk. For a speedy descent, he grips the trunk with his feet and lets his hands slide, like those of a fireman going down a pole. In a shower of bark, he hits the ground and runs off. Ed and Swenna start laughing so loudly you can hear them up your tree. You feel silly and relieved, and you start laughing to yourself. Perhaps we need a bit more practice. We need a bit more time practicing jungle life, Swenna suggests, and the three of you camp for several days, but unfortunately you are not lucky enough to spot any more gorillas. Your fearfulness seems to keep them at bay. The end.
Okay, so you, scared a gorilla with laughter?
Yeah, how could you?
And, okay. I mean, that's an end. I mean, we could definitely explore more of the jungle next
Yeah,
part.
we're on the long tree, so that ends. Yeah, there's like way more on this one. So we were on the long end, actually. So yeah, there's way more of this tree, and then the other side is actually pretty short. So we could do that next time.
Yeah.
What was your favorite ending?
I mean, I personally like the one where, the girl, what's her name again?
Swenna.
Swenna, it's just like, these gorillas are smarter than us, and she looks wistfully in the middle distance, and we don't know what she means by that.
What? Excuse me. What does it mean, Swenna?
What do you mean?
Swenna, what does that mean? Swenna.
Like, what do you know that we don't, and why are they smarter than us?
Swenna, please. I like the one where we fell in a fucking hole and broke her leg. Short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the most exciting book. It isn't a Debbie Machine book, but we still love it. It's fine. It's been fun.
It's fine.
It's not it's not super exciting. It is like it's entertaining enough.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So
I can pay attention to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll do another part, and then
we'll be done with the mountain gorillas, and then we'll move on from there to something else fun. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, this has been Turn to Your Doom, and remember, don't run down a hill in a jungle, or you might die. All right. Bye.
Good night, Mr. the Missile.